There's been a silly debate in the media in the last days about what you have to do. You have to do everything. You have to take the people off the battlefield who are there today, but you're kind of stupid if all you do is do that and you don't prevent more people from going to the battlefield.
Secretary of State Kerry today rebutting critics who say that the administration is both sugarcoating terrorism at today's counter-terrorist summit to avoid offending Muslims and also paying too much attention to the community outreach. Well, joining me now from the State Department is one of the participants, Salam Al-Mariyati, president of the Muslim Public Affairs Council. And here in the studio with me, Jumana Sulyan Saba, a senior policy analyst for the City of Los Angeles Human Relations Commission, who had attended the White House summit sessions this week as well. Thank you both very much. Let me ask you first about today's sessions. What you think is being accomplished, and what about the criticism that this community outreach is too much soft power and not enough hard power against the terrorism that we're seeing from ISIS or ISIL?
Well, I think the idea is that hard power has been used for the last 20 years, if not more, and it can only get us so far. We need to empower communities, because now it's a battle of ideas. It's about a battle of narratives. And to do that, we have to recruit people in our mosques, in our schools, in our institutions, and let them feel that they can carry this battle in terms of the ideas, to show that the theology of life will prevail over the cult of death, to show that Islam is about constructive engagement and inclusion, whereas ISIS is about cruelty and exclusion, to show that American Muslims and Muslim communities worldwide can be part of the solution, because they're the ones that will have that authentic voice to prevent young people from getting lured into the trap of violent extremism.
I wanted to follow up with you and ask you first about the pilot program that's being discussed to work with young people in schools in L.A. and in Minneapolis. What about suspicions in the community that this is a way for the government to do surveillance? Do you think that the government has enough credibility with the community?
I think the government understands that there is distrust and that they have to make some changes to win the trust of the people. But at the same time, the government is being very forthcoming about promoting a partnership program. If we want to push profiling out, then we have to replace it with something. So, for example, we have the Safe Spaces Initiative, which is a community-led program that is about prevention and intervention, to intervene when we find troubled youth. And that is the jurisdiction of the community. When it involves criminal activity, we report it to law enforcement if we eject people from our mosques who are thinking about criminal behavior and doing criminal behavior, then it is the job of law enforcement. So there needs to be that division of labor, and that is how we will build trust within the communities. I find it interesting that we have conspiracy theories on both the right and the left. The right says that Islam is taking over America, and the left now is saying that the government is taking over Islam. I think we have to have that middle-of-the-road approach and say, let's work together, let's do away with these extremist conspiracy theories, and let's come up with solutions.
Jumana, the government, the administration's been criticized. The president was criticized for putting out a statement when the Muslim students in North Carolina were murdered before the police had finally decided whether it was a hate crime or what the facts of the case were, but not putting out a statement right away about the Christians who were killed in Egypt. He almost can't seem to get it right on this tonal stuff. What do you think's going on here?
Well, first, thank you for having me here today. One thing I do want to recognize is that we're dealing with a very complex issue. There isn't a one solution. There isn't a golden answer, unfortunately. It's certainly a balance. It's certainly a way that we can find the space for us to work across communities. So I think to the earlier notion that this is a soft approach, the idea is that this isn't the only approach. The reality that we're dealing with is that we live in a pluralistic society. And we as a collective society in the various sectors, whether it's government, private sector, at the community level, we need to work together to confront hate, to confront extremism. That is really the message of the terrorists. That is the message of people like ISIL. It is to promote sectarianism, where we are trying to close these gaps. So, you know, the whether it's calling it the Islamic or whether it's recognizing that it was the Christians that were victimized, the reality is everybody is victimized, and there certainly is a space for all of us to collectively stand together, Christian, Muslims, and Jews, in all religions, and to collectively say it for what it is.
Salam, I do want to ask you about what happened after 9/11 when you were quoted by the LA Times on a radio station as suggesting that Israel should be one of the suspects for 9/11, that if we're going to look at suspects, we should look to the groups that benefit the most from these kinds of incidents. I think we should put the state of Israel on the suspect list because I think this diverts attention from what's happening in the Palestinian territories so they can go on with their aggression and occupation and apartheid policies. Do you regret that statement?
Well, I did regret it, and it wasn't reported by the LA Times. It was reported by bloggers. But in any case, I've already made that very clear that that was an unfortunate, erroneous statement. I apologized to my colleagues in the Jewish community in Los Angeles. We are working together. It was 15 years ago. This effort right now in terms of countering violent extremism, it's not about Israel. It's not about any particular group. It's about all of us working together, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, against violent extremists. What I did was a hypothetical rejoinder when somebody said that Islam is the suspect. And at that time, nobody knew who was responsible for 9/11. But 9/11 was committed by Al-Qaeda. There were people who used Islam to commit one of the worst terrorist attack on our shores in the United States. And we've been working since then, and even before then, in terms of countering that toxic narrative of violent extremism by showing that Islam is a religion of human dignity and terrorism has no faith, has no humanity. I think that's the message that we have to work together on and move forward on, and now move beyond what political statements were stated 15 years ago.
And do you think that the State Department will be able, with this new online office, which is being expanded, it's existed before, to counteract the ISIS propaganda, which has been so effective, the online propaganda?
The point is, it's not about the State Department. It's not about the government. It's about civil society. Civil society needs to be empowered to move with that message forward. We need authentic voices in communities. And those are the recruits that we will bring forward and we will amplify to counter the toxic narrative of violent extremism by ISIS.
Thank you both so very much. Thanks for being with us.